Thanks for joining the West Jordan Youth Soccer Referee Forum. Today is September the 11th. I'm Jeff Daniels, West Jordan Youth Soccer Director of Referees, and glad that you are here. Small in numbers today, but some good information, and we'll get this out to everybody else as quick as we can. So let's just start down here. I did not update the announcements page, so we're just going to go ahead and skip that. I went right for the meat of it. So our coach feedback that was positive. Here's what we had. Coaches said that the rule enforcement and confidence section, referees were good at enforcing the throw-ins, offsides, and called fouls with clarity. We'll see in a moment here that there were some who felt the other way on a couple things, but we'll talk through that. And then there were some coaches who noted the referee stood firm on decisions despite parent pressure or comments from other coaches. And so just congratulations to everybody for finding that confidence and sticking to it when you make a call. Referees, again, are called out for explaining calls and coaching players. Coaches, of course, appreciate that. Many of our referees this time were described as amazing or decisive or prompt in their calls. So those are some good descriptive words for us, and I'm glad that people are looking at that. One thing to call out, there was one game where there was one team with many players and one player with fewer players. And so the referees went and worked on how to balance that out until enough players arrived for the team that was short. And while coaches generally can do that as well, the one coach commented that he was appreciative that the referees took that initiative to make it a better playing experience for the players. If it was, we may do that in the case where it's dramatically lopsided, like maybe 13 players versus 7 or something. For them to play, maybe they just want to lend a few players. Not a requirement, but those coaches did appreciate it. There were a couple games where, unfortunately, there was some unsportsmanlike behavior, and referees were able to address that calmly and constructively. What that means is that you speak to the player and say, "This is what is happening, and we're not going to have it anymore." As well as you can go to the coach and say, "This is what's happening, and we're not going to have it anymore." So good effort there. There was a lot of composure under pressure. There was one game in particular where there were some aggressive parents and tense moments. And so for those referees who were there, they were able to handle it and keep things calm. Some referees as well were praised for controlling situations that could have escalated. So that's some positive feedback. Going to the other way, I won't read all of these, but you can look down through those. Several direct quotes from coaches on things that were positive, things that were well done. One thing I really like in there is last 3 games have been perfect and fair. That shows consistency in our program. Really great. Claire and Spencer as well got a specific call out for their efforts. So good job here. Any questions so far from any of you on the call for any of the positive feedback? Okay, and that's fine. We will go down to our opportunities. If at any point you do have a question, feel free to put that in the chat or interrupt me. It's okay. Some of our opportunities, this does look a little smaller. I just wanted to bring them all out. We cover this almost every week, but some of the whistles were too quiet. I need to make sure that we're putting enough air through there to make sure everybody hears. And then some of the signs, some of the signals, again, this is where I said it's a little inconsistent from the coaches, depending on their experience. But some of the signals were not large enough for everybody to see, or they were missed. Maybe you blew the whistle and told the players what the play was, but you didn't signal. Not for you on the call, but just in general for the referees. And that just led to some confusion, which is what I've said all this time that uh, times that people get grumpy is when they don't know what's going on. So we want to have loud whistles and we want to have large signals so that everybody knows. Um, Couple comments where some referees remained fairly stationary. We've talked about this before, where you need to be running with the play, staying close enough. On the times where we have dual refs, you want to position yourself properly. Go back and look at last referee forum or at the smaller video that's out there for how we position ourselves. Make sure there's coverage that way. And if you're a center referee with ARs, you got to run, you got to move, you got to be up there with the play. And that's part of what we do as referees. We talked about this last week, and I'll look specifically for some of the referees where this comment was made, but just need for better positioning to ensure the accurate calls. There were times of inconsistent offside calls, and some where the fouls were either not um, explained with the signal or just people didn't know what was going on. And so um, just something to keep in mind, when you're doing your own self-evaluation, see if that is something that you can improve on. I won't go into these next two too much because they were more isolated to a single game. Um, but just communication with your coaches. You don't need to be talking to any parents, but communication with the coaches to help them understand what calls were if they ask. Make sure that we're studying the rules so that we know how long the halves are. We want to be consistent with that. This is probably just a limited problem, but make sure you know how long and make sure that you play the full time. The exception to this is if the game is started late, the clock starts on time and the clock ends on time. And if the team isn't ready, then if the team isn't ready, then that's their own deal where they get to play less. But where everything is starting on time, make sure you're going the full time. Okay. Any questions on our opportunities there? All right. Then let me drop next to our game reports. And let's see if I can pull this up. Actually, I didn't have it prepared. Yeah. This one. I did make a new document, Google Doc for our game reports rather than trying to use the Stack Officials one, which just always seems to have problems. I did try a couple more settings. If anyone out there has been able to see it work, let me know. Maybe go back and see if it's popping something up under the bell icon. But for going forward, we're going to use this. And this is what the form will look like for you, where you'll add in your name and then just answer these few questions. And then I get all of those results. I appreciate the 21 responses have come in. We've played about 100 games, perhaps more now. So if you wanted to go back to your previous games, if you remember, to enter in your game reports, that would be great. And if you just want to use it going forward, that's also acceptable. In future seasons, we'll probably just do this so that we don't run into that same problem. The link to that I did send out in the email earlier today, and I will send it out each week after games so that you just have that fresh. All right, now a question here, and if you want to come off mute and answer this, can someone define for me what is a header?
Pur purposely hitting the
Okay, so purposely hitting the ball with your head. I like the word that you said there of purposely. We did have a couple of referees this last time call it headers when What really happened was a player kicked the ball and it hit a player in the head. That's not a header. That's something where you need to stop play and ask the coach to come on and check for concussion, make sure the player's okay. So don't call a header on that. If they do a header and they're in an age group that's too young to do it, what's the call?
It's a drop ball, right?
Yeah, it's a drop ball. Now that feeds right into our next one. What does a drop ball look like? How do you handle that?
The team that you give the ball to the team that like the foul is against, and they have to wait until the ball touches the ground to kick it.
Right. So you're not lining two players up like in hockey where it's a face-off where they start going at the same time, right? No, the one team gets the ball, you drop it from about waist height. When it hits the ground, then they can play. Now, can they just play or do they need to pass it? Any ideas?
They can just play.
The way that we're going to do it is it's going to be a pass. And if that changes in the future, then I'll let you know. But for now, we'll just do that as a pass versus them just taking it and running. All right. Now, what if the ball hits someone in the head? Just going back to finish this one off. What if it hits them in the head, an unintentional header? How do you handle that? That's what we just talked about, actually. What if they purposely had it?
That would be considered a foul, right?
Yes. And so then we will do it as an an indirect kick. So can they score off of that? No, they cannot. All right, now let's talk for a little bit about protecting the keeper. Who can give me the principles of protecting the keeper? Any thoughts here? All right, protecting the keeper is where if the goalkeeper is going for the ball and the ball is in close proximity to them, but the other team who's trying to score is coming in and they're just kicking at the ball. Basically, there's a threat they could kick their hands or their face or their body or something. You need to blow the play dead and just award the play to the goalkeeper. They would do it as a goal kick. That way we keep the kids safe. I don't want anybody to get kicked. It's a safety thing. Now you have to use judgment there, but in general, the way I think of it is if the ball is within a hula hoop's width of the goalkeeper and the goalkeeper is going down for it so that there's danger, then that's when you'll blow the play dead. Even if they kick it in, the other team kicks it in and it seemed like a goal, you need to blow that dead so that you can let them know that if the keeper is right down there, then they need to be safe about that. But also let the coaches know that that's what the call was so that they can coach their players and so that they're not wondering why didn't that goal count when it seems like it should have. Right. So we want to just keep our goalkeepers safe. Any questions about that? Okay. I guess one more point of clarification. If the goalkeeper is standing up and also trying to kick at it and it's that close, then you don't need to blow that one dead. This is just if they've gone down to get the ball and might get injured. So that's a differentiating factor there. Okay. How many of you have been center referees um, with ARs?
I have.
All right. Can you describe for me a little bit what the challenge is of being a CR and the difficulty with paying attention to the ARs, when they raise their flags, versus just focusing on the play? what are some of the challenges with that?
I would say the hardest thing is just keeping like attention on the play while also kind of keeping the ARs in view, making sure they're not raising their flags, signaling anything, but you also want to have your main focus on the play, obviously, and not miss anything. So you kind of have to look back and forth with most of your attention on on the play, but then frequently check the ARs to see what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. Because you need to be focusing on the play, but you do have to do quick looks so that you can see. I did see multiple times this week, and obviously no one here was a center ref, so I'll need to make sure that this training gets out to more people. Multiple CRs this week did not see their ARs waving for fouls or for offside, and there were several missed calls because of that. The play had gone on. There was even one where the the AR was waving flag uh, correctly, but the CR didn't see it, and the team went down and scored a goal, so it shouldn't have been a goal. So that's just something that for everybody here who will be a CR in the older age groups where you have ARs, it's something you need to train to just be looking in the corner of your out of the corner of your eye. One thing I'd like to do, and it's not on the table to do it, and it's not likely not something we'll do, but I'd love to have the little microphone things so that you can talk to each other. Um, that would be fun. It's not something we're doing right now. So for now, we just need to work on keeping a lookout, but also the ARs could be, say something a little like off or foul, just to help add a little bit more when whipping the flag loud. Okay, any questions on that? All right. And then the last one, just a little clarification for some people. When do you actually call the foul? What are the principles you guys go through on knowing when to call a foul?
I would say if there's like not an advantage, um, and you've seen contact that would be considered a foul, that's when you blow the whistle. You make sure there's no advantage first, and then call the foul after.
Right. So you're also, though, saying you're not waiting to see if one of the kids got hurt, right? You-
Yeah,
You're doing it much sooner. They don't have to be hurt for it to be a foul. You don't
no.
have to hear the collision, over in Tennessee for it to be a foul. If they're sticking their arms out, if they're digging their shoulders in, those are fouls, and you want to call those before it gets to the point where people are getting knocked to the ground and where people are getting injured. So be ready to make those calls when you see them, recognize that they are a foul, and have the courage to make the call and then explain it to the players so they know what you've called and make a large signal with that. So I've just seen a few where the referees are a little shy of or not very confident in making that call, being decisive. There are some that are, but there's several still that need to understand that a little bit better, and just have that confidence. The more we see it, the more familiar we will be, and the better that will come across. So there we go. All right, now let's drop down to this. I redid this screen a little bit for our statistics. This was from our first forum meeting. This is our second. So you can easily see what went up, and what went down, and what stayed the same. 100% is hard to stay at the whole time. This is going to be one game where it didn't start on time. Let's continue our great work there. That's still a great number. I do want to point out the halftime introductions to parents. This went up a lot, and I'm proud of all of you for doing that, making that effort, and encourage you to continue to do that. Again, this is responses from the coaches who have clicked through the link to provide their feedback. So perhaps this time more people who had more to say in the positive filled out their feedback, and I do work hard to have coaches respond. Um, but on the other hand, it's also telling that the number went up a lot. So that means we are working harder. That's great. Um, A lot of these stayed fairly close. The other one that dropped a lot is called Seen from the Sideline. I think really we're seeing that in the feedback. We just need to be very sharp with how we're signaling so that uh, everybody knows what's going on there. All right. So any questions on the statistics? All right. Any questions overall? All right. I think with a smaller group, you're a dedicated group, and I appreciate you being here. As always, let me know if you have questions. You can send me an email or a text. You can call me. Um, Anything that you need for help to do better at your craft here of being a referee, I'm willing to help you with. So if there's nothing else, I'll let you go. And I hope that you all have a great evening, and we'll see you at the fields on Saturday. Thanks.
Thank you.